start recording and let me start with the class. Anyways, so have a couple in our previous class. I've created a Angular application, right? And we went through a few things. Probably it's still confusing for you guys, like what is a component and why did we create that? And so let me show you a simple example, like why in programming we actually use components or what is the deal with that. So for example, let me open Amazon.com. You guys are probably familiar with this. But anyways, if you look down here, you have plenty of products, right? Not just one. There are probably like millions of products in this country, and even in other countries that have many other products. And if you look down here, all of these are different products. And once I open, let's say, this particular product, you can see it opened with some text down here. It has a few images down here and also video. It has the basic layout, and it has some information down here. And but let me open another one as well. So if you see the difference between these two products, what do you notice? Everything is same, like the header on the top, right? Everything is on the top is same. Even all the menu items down here are same. Only difference would be when you actually look at the product, right? This product has different images, and this one thing is different. So do you guys think Amazon would, are you guys able to see my screen? Am I sharing my screen? Probably not, my bad. Are you guys able to see my screen?
No, Anvesh, it's not good.
Okay, my bad. So I was just explaining few things and you guys were not actually seeing anything. Are you able to see it now?
Yeah, Anvesh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So when you look at these two products down here, right, this one and this one, you would see there are plenty of similarities, right? On the top, you have Amazon, you have that, the header, and you know, except for the product description down here and the images down here, everything else is same. Also, some of the there are some details which the product needs, like the price, so on, few other things, but it's everything is same. Do you guys think Amazon would actually develop each individual page for each product?
No,
Or,
I
I
would.
mean, okay. So it would be actually difficult to create a different HTML page for each product because then they would have to write a lot of code, and it's not best practice in doing that. So there are some concepts in programming. One of them is called DRY. So DRY means don't repeat yourself. Okay, this is one of the most fundamental concepts in programming. By don't repeat yourself means you only do one thing at a time. You would only, and you would just not you would just try to use that everywhere possible. So when I'm saying don't repeat yourself, they don't want to create each code for each one of these items down here. They would just write one thing, and they would be using that in the multiple products or multiple web pages. So components would actually help us to do such things. So if you look down here, you have a header down here on the top, and you have some section where you have images down here. Then there is a product description, and there are a few other things. And apart from that, the top part is almost same, right? Header part is same, and also you have the basic layout doesn't change, right? No matter what page you open for the product, this would be the basic layout. So this is what they would actually do. So they would create a layout with header images, and they would say this is where the product description goes, and this is where few other information would go, like add item or buy item. So in order to do this, they would create individual components in our in any project. They may be using Angular or not, but this is how, since we're doing it in Angular, we would actually do it using components, because components, remember this one thing, components is the basic building blocks for our Angular, So they would create, I'm not saying they would include everything in one header and that they would call it a component, but we can actually do that. We can just create one component and use that as a header. So the only advantage, as I've shown you before, they would write the code once, but they would use it in multiple pages. I'll show you how we can actually do that when we are actually going through the lessons. But the concept you have to understand is components are created so they are reusable. That is the main concept. Okay, so let us create a small component and let us see what is how can we actually do that. As I mentioned before, again, we would, most of the code, whatever we write, it would go into the app folder down here in the source and app. And there I would, let me create a new folder. Let me call it a. So this is what, this is how we would actually name the folders, or this is how we would actually create components. Whenever you're creating a component, make sure that you create a new folder. And within that folder, you try to create the component. So it's easy to refer. And I'll also tell you why do we actually need that to create a new folder. Anyways, I would say server. Another thing before actually going through that, I would like to mention, I've included some extensions. Okay, that is why my Visual Studio Code would actually look different than what you're looking. For example, I can actually see icons for each individual things down here. So I'll share what I'm actually installing, or for the extensions. So you see this, it says extension. So I would just go there, and in the marketplace, I would search for a particular extension. And looks like I've installed plenty, but I would share it with you guys later on, saying these are the extensions I've installed. And if you guys like, you can install that. It would make your life simpler or easier. Whenever you're writing code, these things would actually make sense. Okay, anyways, coming back to our components, you would create a new folder, okay? And in that folder, I would say new file. And always remember, our components are created in Angular. Everything is written in TypeScript. And that is what we're using. In order to create a particular component name, this is how I would do it. I would say name of the component, okay? For example, server dot, since this is the component, I would say component dot ts, okay? And this is how I would actually mention the name of the component, okay? And the first thing I want to show you is, so this one particular component, you want to use it elsewhere. You don't want to write a component to just use it here, right? You're actually writing components to share it. So in order to do that, I would have to create this is a simple syntax. It says export. When I'm saying export, it says I'm allowing it to be used in another place. And I would say this is a class. Do you guys know what a class is, or anyone? Or
Class is a collection of objects and yeah, variables.
Yep, as simple as it is. So since you know about classes, and okay, so here whenever I define a class, I'm saying this is what I can actually do in here. A simple, and I would give a name for this one as well. I would say server component. This is how I would define this. This is the first thing, first and foremost thing. Whenever I define it.
What is the keyword export, Anvesh? I saw import.
So export again means I'm able to use this in another place. It's like public. You probably used public right before.
Okay. Public.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So it's just saying I can actually share this with something else. That is why I'm saying export. If I don't use export, then it's not shared. I cannot share it elsewhere. Okay. So I would start with that export class server com and the name of the component. Usually I would name the class name as whatever I'm trying to do and the component. Okay. These are standard practices. You can use this or you don't have to use this, but this is how I do it and any other developer does. The naming conventions, I mean. And since this is a component, I have to use a decorator. And in here, I need to tell Angular that this is a component. In order to do that, I would simply say add, and I would simply specify it's a component. Okay. Okay. And now it's you're seeing it's complaining, unable to resolve. Okay. And I have to declare that. And once I haven't actually manually entered this one, but you see it's automatically done. Okay, if I remove that, it says cannot find name component. You guys know what a library is, right? Libraries.
Yes, Anvesh. Yeah.
Okay, so
Import
just for the
classes and packages. Sorry, package.
Yep, that's right. And just for the sake of the class, I would briefly explain. So down here, I'm saying import, and I'm specifying something down here in from so and so. So what I'm trying to do down here is whenever I say import, I'm saying I'm trying to use code from some other place. So I'm saying location. And when I say import and I'm giving a name here, I'm saying I'm using component and I'm saying from Angular core. So what is Angular core? So when I use this one, I'm saying I'm using component in here. That is, I have this. And when I say from Angular core, I'm saying I'm getting it from this particular location. And if you're getting from Angular core, usually it's from the node modules. So if you go down here, Angular, I have Angular core. So I'm just trying to get this component from this particular location. And you can also put your mouse over that and you can see it would actually show you the actual location of that one. Anyways, so in order to tell Angular this is the component, I have to declare it as a component. So I have to use the decorator component down here. And for this component, you have several, you have to pass few arguments or you have to pass few properties. And one of them is selector. This is the basic property, and you should always mention this one. So selector, and I would put a column and in single quotation marks, I should name what the selector is. So selector here means, as I mentioned before as well, so what are components, right? Components are nothing but HTML tags we create. So these are the tags we actually create. So that is a flexibility. And how can we identify? To identify, the selector, or sorry, to identify the tag name, we specify it in the selector property. Okay, we assign selector property. Okay, so that is what we're trying to do. So do you guys follow this one, what I'm trying to say? So here, whenever we're defining a selector, this basically means this is what we're actually using as a HTML tag later on. So I would simply say, and this is another convention again. Since I am within the app folder, I would specify it something like app dash server, the name of the current component. So this is how you would actually create a component. Okay, but I've created a component, but you don't see any HTML, right? What we're actually trying to do is create our own HTML tags, okay? But you don't see anything down here. So in order to add a particular HTML actual code, what you have to do is create another file in the server folder itself. So it's a server, new file, and this is the format I would use for creating a HTML. So I would still go with server component.html. Okay, as simple as that. And in here, I would specify, for example, I want to check if this particular if this particular component works. So I would simply say server component works. Okay, that is all I have in here. I have a paragraph, and in paragraph, I just have the simple text. I'm saying server component works. And then here I have to actually specify this is the HTML file I'm actually using. In order to do that, we have another property. It's called template URL. Okay, template URL, and I specify where it is. Since it's in the same folder as this one is, the TypeScript and the HTML. In order to specify, I can simply say dot dash backslash and whatever the name. So the name is server.component.html. Are you guys with me so far? Any questions? Why do we have all of these? Okay, and okay, so far so good, right? So I have I specified the selector. This is, I'm saying this is the tag I'm going to use. I specified where the HTML code is, and here the actual location. And this is all I have. So this is as good as we can do. And in order to refer that in a different, let's say, HTML page, all I have to do is I have to use the selector name. Okay, and here the selector name is app server. So I would just use this as a tag. So I would simply say app server. And once I do this, it should automatically show us in the browser. And this, am I running? Okay, I'm running here, but you see, it is complaining. It says app server is not a known element. Why does it do it? So earlier I've explained you briefly about the app module, but let me explain it down here again. Clearly, why do we have an app module? So in app module, you have I've defined app component. App component is nothing but this one down here, the basic one. So whenever I create a particular component, I actually have to specify it in the module. Okay, module in this case is nothing but helps to bundle different components. Or so if you don't actually specify in the module, okay, down here, no other component would actually know this component exists. Whatever you have created, even though you have created here and you have done everything, you still have to specify it in the app module. Only when you specify that in the app module, it would actually, the Angular would actually know, okay, they've created this component and we have to use it. So in order to do that, you can see there are different sections down here, right? There is a declaration section, there's imports, providers, bootstrap. I've explained you what bootstrap is in the previous class. It's nothing but I'm simply saying this is where the actual code starts. And providers, I would explain it later, but simply to say, right now I can simply say creates to refer to services. I'll discuss in detail about what services are and why do we use that. And if you see imports, okay, and here it simply says we have few other modules, right? Browser module, app routing module, and I haven't created these modules. Those came actually by default, okay? So in imports, I would have different modules. Right now, we only have one module, right? We only created, or we are only using app module.es. Some projects, you're good just using one module. Some complex, really complex projects, you may want to use more than one module. But anyways, so if you're trying to use more than one module, and if you want to refer that in here, I would just specify down here. I would put a comma and mention the name of the module. Okay, anyways, so imports is for modules, and here coming back to declarations, this is where I would actually have to specify whatever component I have actually declared here, okay? And as I mentioned before, export is simply saying, I want to use this component somewhere else, and I want to use this by that name, export class, whatever component name is. So in order to specify this component in our app module, that is all we have to do, okay? I would put a comma, put the name of the server component, but it's still is complaining cannot find name, because down here, whenever I specify app component, I'm saying where I'm actually getting that app component, right? I'm saying it's in the app folder, or it's in that particular folder with app component, right? But I haven't specified where am I actually getting server component. So that is where it's complaining. So similarly, I would simply say import and the name of the component. Here it is server component, right? And from and wherever the location is. So it's in the server folder and server component. And now it's good. So it is not complaining anymore and everything is resolved. And now it's compiled successfully. Okay. Now it's not complaining. So do you guys understand the flow about how to create a component and how to refer that in a module?
Yeah,
okay, cool. So let us let me actually open our localhost 4200 and give me 1 second. Okay, so location is right. Okay, yes, okay. Okay. Anyways, it took some time to load. So you can see it says server component works. Okay, we're not using Bootstrap down here, but I would advise you guys to install Bootstrap and do that. So whenever I change code down here, I would say server component or it changes it automatically. Okay, we're doing all of this, but there is another way actually we can create a component. So I've explained you in detail about each and every line here, but the simplest way I've explained, I created this manually so I can actually explain everything down here. But there are other ways of creating components. And go back to your terminal. So I've opened terminal and I've opened it in administrator mode anyways down here, or you can also do it from here. I would say terminal, new terminal. Once I do that, it would actually go to your folder directly. So those are two ways. To avoid any confusion, I usually just use the command prompt, but it's up to you guys. You can use the terminal down here or the command prompt. Anyway, so let me go to the folder. So as I mentioned to you guys before, I would create all the components in app. So I went there. In order to create a component, we have a simple command ng, okay, generate component. Okay, I'm simply saying I want to generate this component and the name of the component. Let's say I want to generate another component called ng servers instead of server. Okay, I can type all of this like ng generate component and the name of that, or the shortcut is ng g and c. Okay, ng g c and the name of that. And once I hit enter, in that particular folder, wherever I've mentioned, it created another folder with everything we need. So you have a question?
Can you make the font size bigger?
Okay.
In command prompt.
Sure. Appearance. Zoom in, I guess.
Okay. This is good.
This is good. Okay, cool. Let me, okay, make it even clear. Okay. My screen resolution is more than 1080p, so may appear small. Sorry. Anyways, so this is another way of actually creating a component. So I don't have to create a new folder, create individual TypeScript and HTML, but once I say ng gc and specify the name of the component, it would automatically generate the folder. And you can also see, apart from generating the folder and all of these individual components down here, it also updated our app module. So it also added the import servers component and the servers component down here. So, so that is a shorter, easiest way of doing it. Or I will. There are a few additional things it added, but this is what we have. Okay, another thing I forgot to mention is, so similar to what we have for a component, we would decorate it with a component. For a module, it would be decorated with ng module, at ng module. So that is how it would know the difference between those two things. Okay, so apart from generating that, it also added the import. It added the CSS, HTML, our TypeScript, and you might be wondering what this is. This is for testing. Right now, we won't be going through this one, but later on, if it's necessary, I would also teach you guys how to use the testing or how to include testing with your components itself. Okay, coming back to here. Okay, in order to use let's change the HTML down here. Okay. So this is multiple servers. Okay, I will simply say app server. Right. And also let me actually refer to app servers in our app component. And in order to know what tag I have to use, I would just go to selector and pick that up. And so right now, instead of app server, I have app servers. And let us see how it. My bad, I haven't been running it. So that is why it's not working, because I'm not running it here. Okay, so it's compiled successfully, and let us refresh. All right, now you can see this is server component files. Okay, so you can also see the reusability down here, right? So I've created it just once, but in the app servers component, I'm using it more than once. So basic advantage of doing that. Okay, so I have defined template URL here, and I'm actually, so you've understood what template URL is, right? So I'm just saying whenever I use template URL, I'm just saying where the HTML page is. Apart from that, we also have style URL. Okay, style URL is where I would define where the CSS is from, as simple as that. So these are different properties which can actually go into the component. Okay, so you can either define a HTML page, okay, where you're getting your code from, or you can actually write your HTML down here. This may not be that popular. I have seen in certain cases they would actually define the HTML. If it's smaller or if it's easy to refer to, they would just define it there. In order to do that, I would use the template property, and I would define it here. So instead of defining it here, okay, I can actually go back, okay, have it twice. So I will do that, and see if it's still same thing down here. So I can define it in that way and also for style URLs. Style URLs, as I mentioned, I can define a particular style in our CSS. So I can say, for example, let's say background. For not applying server. Anyways, I'll get back to this one. Simply star. Okay. Or maybe just color. Okay. Anyways, so I can do, the only thing I want to explain is, So I can actually specify the CSS down here. Also, I can specify down here in the style URLs. So instead of saying style URLs, the main difference is if I want to specify down here, I wouldn't use the URL name. I would just simply specify it as styles. And as you can see, the difference between whenever I'm using a template or template URL, I can only specify one location. Like here, I'm saying I'm getting the HTML from this particular location. But for using style URLs down here, it says URLs, so it's a plural, right? So it's actually using an array. Are you guys familiar or know about arrays, right? Do you have any questions, or do you guys know what an array is? Okay.
Sandesh,
Sorry?
yes, we know about array. It's a collection of.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, collection of. So if I have more than one value, or it's simply saying collection of multiple values. So that is what an array is. So in to define array, this is how. So what I'm trying to say is, so since I'm using style URLs, I can actually specify more than one CSS file here. So in order to do that, if I want to do that, I would put a comma and I would specify another CSS document here. So if I have another one, if I want to include in servers, I can include that, and I can separate them with a comma and do that. Okay, so style URLs or styles generally are multiple. I can specify multiple ones. That is why it's URLs. And similarly, I can simply specify styles. If I want to specify that, I can also do that here. So, but this is an array, so I still have to put that here. So I would simply say, in this case, it's color and the name of the property, right? Blue. So anyways, so these are different ways I can actually describe the template or styles. Okay, the main thing when I'm using template instead of using a template URL is, what if I have multiple lines, right? In single line, I cannot fit an entire HTML page. If I have multiple lines, how would I do that? One thing, if I do this one, okay, it's complaining. It says terminated string literal, and it's giving me few other errors. So in order to do that, I would put a so that particular character is let me show you keyboard. See in the keyboard, the image is not clear, but you can see down here above the tab, you have this one, right? Tilde, and below that you have another thing. So that is a character.
Tilde.
I don't know.
It's dot. Is it like dot?
Below tilde you have, yeah, dot, or it's not a dot, but it's it's this one. Okay, it's not represented as a dot, but like a reverse, single quotations. Yeah, single quotes, but this is reverse single quotes. Usually, whenever you use single quotes, this is how it appears, right? But this one is the one on the top of the keyboard.
Okay.
I don't know how it looks on a Mac. Maybe it's the same thing. On a MacBook, it may be different. Maybe this one. I don't know. But it's not the single quotes. I keep forgetting the name of it. So, anyways, so if I want to represent it in a multiple lines, I would use that. So once I use that, I can actually specify that this thing in a multiple lines. So I would simply say that, and I can have this in the next line as well. I'll try to find what it is in a man book, or you can try to figure it out. But this is how I can use it. If I want to use multiple lines, this is how I would do it. So again, you see, it's working just fine. I can, without actually using the template URL, I've specified everything here, and I've also represented that in multiple lines. Any questions so far? Okay. So, so you can see it says this one thing is a selector, right? It doesn't say this is. It doesn't say it's a name, or it doesn't say something else, but it says it's a selector. Do you guys remember CSS selectors? We do have different CSS selectors, right? Like we have type selector, we have attribute selector, we have class selector, so on and so forth, right? So apart from just specifying it in this way, I can actually specify it using an attribute. So in order to do that, I would just simply put that in a square bracket. So now it's an attribute selector. If you want to see that, now if I refresh this page, it is complaining. It says it's not a known element. So it says it's not, it doesn't find it. In order to use it in our HTML page again, I have to specify that as an attribute. So I would say I can use it as an attribute for any particular HTML tag. In my case, I'm trying to use it as an attribute for a div. So now I do that. Why is this not? Sorry, my bad. Okay, and doesn't work. Why is it? Okay, servers, not server. Sometimes it takes some time to, But anyways, that is one way of using it. Okay, it took some time to compile. So this is how I will use it as an attribute selector. If I want to specify that, if also apart from attribute, you also remember the class name, right? So there are three ways of using this. I can simply specify this, in which case I would use it as a tag. If I specify in this way, I have to use it as an attribute. The third way of doing it is using a dot. Dot means in CSS as well, it's a class selector, right? So if I do that, now it's still not showing us because I have to use it as a class name here. So simply I would say class equal to servers. And once I do that, I should see that. Okay. Any questions regarding any of these? Okay, cool. So, but I don't want to do that. So let me go back. So standard practice is just specifying it as a name. Okay. Not specifying it as a class or attribute, but in case if you guys ever encounter someone doing that, you would be familiar with that one. Okay. So also with template, let me go back to our using a template URL. And also, I forgot to mention, comments in TypeScript, I can specify 2 backslashes and I can type in comment here. Also, it's a standard sort of comments, right? So I can also do this for a multi-line comment. Okay. So before going any further, I just want to ask you a few questions. Or do you guys are familiar with data types, right? In any programming language, this is important to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So similar to any data types in any other programming language. So just for the sake of the class, and if someone is want to watch this later, or so data type. Why do we use a data type, right? Data type. The main reason for using a data type is to represent a particular value. Okay. What does it actually mean? Let us go back to our Amazon example. Okay. So here, 23.10. Okay. This is a number, right? 23.10. This is a dollar amount, and this is a number. While sterling, silver, so on and so forth, it's not a number, right? This is a description of that particular product. Okay. In order to describe different things efficiently in any programming language, okay, just for the efficiency purpose, they have defined data types. Okay. In order to, for example, in here, if I want to represent a number or a dollar value, I would have a data type called number. And in TypeScript, it's a number. And this is to represent any numbers, as simple as it. Okay. While I have a number here, but this one thing, the entire description, okay? In order to say something or in order to describe it in plain words, you have another data type called string, okay? Represent any descriptions. Okay. Apart from that, there are few basic data types in Angular. Okay. One is Boolean. Okay. What is a Boolean? Boolean only says if it's true or false. Okay. You're already familiar with that, I guess. So true or false. Apart from that, let me actually type it here and you would understand it better. So in order to represent a number, okay, I would simply specify the name of that particular. Okay, this is the syntax. Let me show you the syntax. So the syntax is name of the data, okay, column data type equal to whatever the value is. For example, if we go down here, see, this is the price, right? So this is the price of jewelry, and the data type is number, and the value is 10, or not 10, but 23.10. Okay. So any number, it can be with a decimal or not with a decimal. I can still represent using a number down here. So similarly, in order to define here, not just for numbers, for any data type, this is the standard format: name of the data, column, data type equal to value. So let me define since we are discussing about servers down here, I want to define a server ID. And the type is number equal to 10. And let's say I also want to display server status. And status can only be described as a description. So I want that to be a string, and I would simply say offline or online. Server status can be online or offline, or let's say, in order to display Boolean, similarly, true or false, okay, say Boolean equal to, let's say, initially it's false. These are basic types. Apart from these, there are other types as well. I would describe it once. Let me would show you a simple example. Another one is enum. Enum, for example, week, days. You guys know what enums are, right?
Enumeration.
Yep, enumeration. So if I want to specify something which I already know, like let's say weekdays or months in a year, not just weekdays, but months in a year, and all of those things can be represented as an enum. Enum has standard values, and you can actually write that in this way. So this is another data type in Angular. And also we have arrays. So you must have already seen, as we have down here, this is an array. Styles is an array. So in order to do that, I forget the syntax, but let's say multiple values. Okay, that is a. So if I want multiple, let's say numbers, I would say number, and I would just simply put that square brackets, and now it's a array. So now it can hold more than one number. It can hold more than one number. It can hold multiple numbers, say 10, 20, 30, so on and so forth. So any questions about anything? Okay. Apart from this, sometimes these are very basic data types. You can also create your own data types, or let's say you can, which we'll be going through that later, but let's say these are basic data types. Okay, anyways, why did I even create these, right? So I have a template URL servers. So whenever we create a website or anything, we are creating it not just for us to display some data, right? Right now, as of now, I'm only displaying whatever. Why do I have any errors? Okay. This happens. Sometimes if you have any issues, if something isn't what you're not able to see something which you're expecting, or say terminate it, recompile it, sometimes it gets it back. The compiler, ngserve compiler is good, but sometimes it's not really reliable. So do I still see this? Okay, now I see this back. Anyways, it should automatically compile, but sometimes it doesn't do that. So just stop it and restart it. Okay, coming back down here. Okay. In the server component, okay, let me create two different data variables, and these are called variables whenever you create a data and a data type. I've created two variables down here. What was I saying is, whenever you create any particular application, you're not just doing that to display things, right? You also want to accept things, or you want to make it more dynamic, right? So let us see how there are different ways of doing that in Angular. So we do have TypeScript, and we do have HTML, right? Or HTML. So in order to transfer data from TypeScript to HTML, whenever I want to display something in a HTML page by getting it from TypeScript, okay? Or sometimes you want to do it the other way around, right? You want to display or you want the HTML page to communicate with the TypeScript page, okay? There are different ways of communication in Angular, okay? One is from TypeScript to HTML, another one is HTML to TypeScript. HTML to TypeScript is whenever, let's say, going back to here, when I'm trying to click a button, right? What does need to happen? So I'm clicking the button here. This is the HTML page. So I'm clicking down here, add to cart, and it goes to a TypeScript. So that is a sort of input I'm talking about when I'm saying passing data from HTML to TypeScript. When you click a button or when something changes on HTML page, do you want the TypeScript code to actually react? So apart from these two, there is also two-way binding when you want to communicate between both of them at the same time. I'll tell you what I'm actually talking in an example. So in order to send data from TypeScript to HTML page, there is called string interpolation. There are different ways for actually doing it. One is string interpolation. Another one is property binding. So in order to transfer any data from TypeScript to, HTML page, and from HTML page to whenever the user reacts, right? React to user events, whenever. So that is another one. Like whenever a person clicks a button, what do I want to do? So that is another one. So apart from these two, in Angular or in most of the user interfaces, not just in Angular, but you would have these three types. In here, you have string interpolation, property binding, and react to events, and also two-way binding. Two-way binding is, I'll show you, is it already late? Okay. I'll explain about these in the next class, but I just want you guys to remember what these are. ng modal. Whenever I say ng modal and whatever I'm saying data, it passes the data from TypeScript to HTML and HTML to TypeScript. I would tell you what does it mean actually. Let me show you a simple example just before I wrap up. So in order to do string interpolation, there is a simple syntax. The syntax goes in this way. So I would have two curly braces, between two curly braces down here, I would put a property here, okay? So I've defined a property in component down here, okay, like a server ID. If I want this to be communicated to HTML page, I would simply say, let me create another paragraph. Let me say server ID is, and simply double braces, curly braces. I would simply specify whatever the variable name is down here. So I would simply copy paste that. Okay. Let us, and you see the data is actually passed from TypeScript to HTML page. Any questions about what we have done? Like how are we communicating data? It's as simple as this one. You define a variable down here in your TypeScript, and in order to display it in the HTML page, I would use curly braces, two curly braces. That is all. As simple as it can get. So there are a few things which you can actually do for a string interpolation. This thing is called string interpolation. Okay. So between two curly braces. So in string interpolation, okay, there are a few things I can do. I can simply specify, I can pass a value from the component to our HTML page. That is one thing you can do. Or I can simply specify any string. I can specify any string down here. So in order to specify a string, I would use a single quotation. Okay. And I would say server ID is, let's say I want to say it's offline. So I would simply do that. And once I do that, it's reflected down here. It's offline. And apart from just simple passing string, there is also one more thing I can do. I can actually write expressions down here. Expressions can be anything, like if I want to add two numbers, I can actually do that here. I would say 1 plus 2. Okay, I can put any sort of expression down here. This is another thing which can actually go down here. And you can see that is reflected in the page. 1 plus 2, and it added and it automatically converted that into a string, and it is displaying it here. So this is how the string interpolation works. So I can simply specify variable name, or I can specify a string, or I can actually write an expression. There is one more thing I can actually do. So you guys are you guys familiar with methods? What methods are?
Yes, Anish.
Okay, so you know, so another thing which you can actually pass is a method. I can simply say specify the method name. And this is how we would write methods in Angular. So I would specify the name of the method, braces and curly braces. If down here, I would write the method. I would go in detail later on because there may be other students who are not familiar with this one, but just for today, I'm saying I want to return the server status, and I'm saying, oops. So I want to return offline. Okay. So instead of saying is offline here, I'm actually passing data from a method down here, which I've written in the TypeScript. So get server status, and so many things down here. Okay, complaining. Okay. Blank expressions. Okay. Oh, okay, my bad. Okay, compiled successfully, and you can see server ID is offline now. I'm not specifying it here as a string, but I'm actually getting that as a property from a method down here. So these are different ways I can use string interpolation, and there are a few other ways we can actually pass data from from the TypeScript to HTML page. It's called property binding, and I would also discuss about different ways of communication in the next class because it's already 8:03. And do you guys have any questions?
No, Anish, it's good.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll stop the class here, and we'll have the class again on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Are you guys okay doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday? What do you guys prefer?
I think Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday are good because it would be a long gap.
Okay.
From Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Also, you would have some time to do an assignment on Wednesday if you get a chance. So, okay, I'll do that. Yeah, Shravanti, are you saying something?
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine for me.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'll take the class on.
One question I
Okay,
have.
cool.
If we are practicing and if we get stuck anywhere, is it okay? Can we ping you in the middle at any time, or else?
Yeah, uh, yeah, that's fine. I'm
Okay,
okay with taking classes in between,
okay, sure.
or not the classes. I'm saying question
Yes.
whenever I'm talking. That is totally okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So, okay, I've created two components down here, right? I've created a server component and a servers component. So since Lakshmi, you've already created a project, I want you to do this. So I want you to, or for both of you guys, create. This is a assignment. Create two components. I would also share this in WhatsApp, but anyway, create two components. One is for success, second one is for failure. Okay. Success I want to show both of them in the main component. Main component is the app component HTML, right? This is main component. Show both of them in the main app component. Okay. So I want to display it in the actual web page down here. Okay. The only thing is like the success should have color green, and failure should have a color red. So as simple as it can get. So create two components, one for success, another for failure. One should have a color green, other one is a red, and show both of them in the main component. And is it okay if I continue for a couple more minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sure. If you guys are you guys familiar with GitHub? Any idea? Do you guys have any idea about GitHub? Okay. So GitHub is a popular code sharing platform, which is also open source. So it's good in that way. So you can actually sign up, or I already have one, so I'm signing in here. So you can see you have created several projects here, right? Similar to that, you can actually create your own projects and also share with someone else. And I want you guys to create your own GitHub account. The first thing. This is also not only useful right now, but it's also useful later on whenever you're going for job interviews. If someone asks you, did you develop any code? You can say, yeah, I did. You can share your GitHub details, and they would be able to look at it. And
is it like storing our?
This is it. Sorry.
Is it like storing our projects?
Yep,
Internally?
it's exactly that. So that is where we can store our projects. And interesting. Okay, so this is where you can actually store your projects. Not only just store your projects, but you can also share with others. And this is all free as well. So that's the main advantage. So create your own GitHub account. You can make your account private, but you also have another advantage of using Visual Studio Code is you can actually, whenever you make changes, so whenever I made changes here, you see, it says M, right? M is modified. Also, it shows I made changes down here. I don't know what you mean. And you can also see here for me, when I clicked in Visual Studio Code, you see Explorer, Search, then you have source control. For me, it already says I have the changes. I can commit it. Once I commit it, it would go to my GitHub account because I've already created it, and I've used my credentials down here. But for you, I think it would show a different sort of thing. So you probably have to enter your login details and all of that. Okay. Once you do that, whenever you commit your changes, or it automatically goes to your GitHub account. I'm saying to do all of this because from now onwards, I want you guys to share your, assignments using GitHub. Share it with me. So I would look at it, and if you have any questions, we can go through that.
Okay, Anvesh. Yeah. But how to create between the Visual Studio Code and the GitHub? I mean, yeah.
So once you go to source control, you should see some options. Right now, for me, it just says changes, but for you, it may ask you. Let me stop sharing. And also